Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why there's a team LeBron should be worried about, and it's not who you think.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why last night proved Whitlock was crazy to say the Thunder are a real threat. Speak for Yourself starts now on a Wednesday. We got a lot of stuff today.
Not good when I have to agree with you. The Thunder let me down. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard and Colin's co-host on The Herd, Christine Leahy. Let's start in Portland, where James Harden went off on the Trailblazers last night, dropping 42 points to go with 7 assists and 6 rebounds, and leading the NBA best Rockets to their 6th straight win. Harden has been doing this all year, but Coach Mike D'Antoni is still impressed with his star.
He's unique. I mean, yeah, that's the best offensive player I've ever seen. It's just, he does things. They were running guys to him. He just steps a little further back and makes a three. And I just, the way he can pass and see the floor, get fouls, layups, floaters, maybe a lob, maybe out to the corner. I mean, just, he has so many weapons. And now he's shooting those step-back threes. It's impossible to guard. It's impossible.
Harden is pretty much a lock for the MVP, and his year stacks up nicely next to the season Steph Curry had when he was the unanimous MVP. Cowherd, does Harden deserve to be the second unanimous MVP?
Not really to me. I mean, he's a great player, but we're not giving it any context. We do get the coaches Mike D'Antoni, and the Phoenix Suns won 60 games and had Steve Nash, who was elevated, and then could never really finish it in the playoffs. Like, we know Mike D'Antoni made Chris Duhon look good. For a month and a half.
Not this good.
Well, no.
This isn't good.
No, Chris Duhon's
incredible.
A marginal NBA player looked good. Jeremy Lin took the league over for a month. Like, this is Chip Kelly. Now, I'm not saying Marcus Mariota can't play, but every Chip Kelly quarterback was a Heisman candidate. One could play in the NFL. I love James. He's a great player. Do I think he's as good all time as Steph Curry? The numbers tell you he's not. I don't think he's Chris Paul. He's not as good as shooters, three-point shooter all time, Steph Curry. Steph's a better ball handler, I think. I think Steph's a better passer.
His assists are much higher than Steph.
What would you, if you gave Steph Mike D'Antoni, wouldn't he average 37? I mean, this system works for everybody.
I agree with your point. I think James Harden is the MVP. I don't think he should be a unanimous MVP. I don't think his season is comparable to what Steph Curry accomplished in Golden State. That was a 73-9 team, greatest team of all time. That was a new way of playing basketball that we kind of hadn't seen. Steph Curry played 79 of the 82 games. James Harden's already missed 10 games this year. James Harden's having a remarkable MVP season. Unanimous choice? No. What I think what Damian Lillard's done, making Portland relevant, he deserves some votes. I could give some votes to LeBron if I wanted to.
I think we're getting caught up too much in unanimous. Like, it's only happened once, but
Steph Curry, second time?
Steph Curry was not the first guy that should have been unanimous. LeBron should have been unanimous years ago when Carmelo Anthony got 1 vote. There are many other players, a Magic, a Bird, a Kareem, a Jordan, who should have been unanimous. I think now there's more of a consensus in the media. Because of the internet, we see what everybody writes. So now there's more of a consensus in what an MVP is.
You don't want to be the crazy guy who votes somebody else.
And it's gonna, like, your wins are, we know now, everybody feels like you have to have a high number of wins unless there's some type of statistical anomaly like Russell Westbrook last year. But back in the day, I mean, Kareem won it without even making the playoffs. There were a few guys that won it without winning 50 games, but not since 1982. So I think now more people agree your team has to really be great. Your stats have to be really be great. So we should see more. I think we'll see more unanimous vote getters as the years go on. And I think he definitely should be unanimous because who else you arguing for? LeBron? His team could be 5th in the freaking East. You know?
I think he should be the MVP, but I don't think he should be unanimous. And Colin, I'm actually going to tell you, I think LeBron deserves some votes. I think Damian Lillard deserves some votes. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Davis got a vote or two. I think they all do. But I want to point this out. From the beginning of the year, I said when everyone else was saying Chris Paul and James Harden, they're not going to get along. They both want to have the ball in their hands. I thought this was going to work from the very beginning. It's two guys who I could see saying they couldn't win on their own, but they're going to come together. They have to put aside their egos if they ever want to win anything. And I think that's one of the great things about James Harden this year is that he was able to really performed very well alongside Chris Paul, and his numbers have been consistent. And when I think of MVP, that's what I think of. Do you elevate your team, and have you done it consistently all season?
How do you justify Lillard over Harden, voting for Lillard?
Because he doesn't play in a system that is totally Chip Kelly driven. I mean, this is like a quarterback for BYU in the 80s, winning the Heisman. Well, God, before people were throwing it, they were throwing it 60 times a game. So, I mean, again, I like D'Antoni, but there is a real Chip Kelly parallel here.
Truth to
like
that. There is truth to that.
You don't think Portland's more overachieved than the Houston Rockets?
Who's their second great player?
CJ McCollum. I'm not saying he's Chris Paul.
He's not an all-star.
But here's Harden's every single stat is better than Lillard's. And then the team's won 13 more games. Anthony Davis has lost 16. They've won 16 fewer games than Harden. He had DeMarcus Cousins with him for half the year.
Here's what I really like about your argument that you opened my eyes to something in terms of we're caught up because last year was the first time it happened, and so we're not used to it and was like, well, it shouldn't happen again. But if there had been a lot more information available to people back in the day, again, we used to have to go to the newspaper to find out what Kareem did. And hell, if your newspaper came out early enough, you didn't get it, you didn't even know. And so there wasn't all this access to information, and so the vote was more regionally driven.
Yes.
I see Kareem more, I vote for him. If Dr. J's on the East Coast and I see him more, I vote for him. Now you get to see everybody, and it makes the choice a bit more clear-cut.
I also think Chris said something, and I think it's a real thing in voting. There's so much transparency now, and there's this tyranny of the mob and the internet. You don't want to be the one guy, because it used to be, it was mostly anonymous. Yeah. If you don't vote Harden, your inbox.
They'll figure it out.
I mean, they're going to kill you on Twitter. And again, those Davis, even LeBron's having a great individual season, but if you take into consideration the team performance, you're not going to vote him number one. Davis, Lillard, I don't see how you say they are the MVPs over Harden. Now, what might make it not unanimous is that there's no consensus. The league gives you no guidelines for what an MVP is. I have my own criteria. You may have your own. But I do think, as I said earlier, with everything being so transparent, more people have similar criteria.
Hi, it's Colin Cowherd. You're listening to the Speak for Yourself podcast, and this show is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. Buffalo Wild Wings loves a Cinderella story, the tale of the underdog, the unexpected, and by their unexpected nature, you just can't predict when one's going to happen. It makes them great, also makes them frustrating, because at any moment, you could miss that Cinderella sighting. Unless you're about spending March Madness at B-Dubs, the official hangout for NCAA March Madness. Here, you'll catch every second of every game. You'll be able to look back, tell the story of the team you watch, climb their way from the low seed to the championship, but only if you go to Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Now, back to the show.
All right, to Boston, where the Thunder's six-game winning streak came to an end last night against the Celtics. Celtics didn't have Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. OKC was up late, but Melo missed 2 free throws, could have sealed the game, opening the door for Boston's game-winning 3. Whitlock, was this proof the Thunder aren't a threat in the West?
They're inconsistent, and that loss is inexcusable. You left out the fact that Westbrook missed a crucial free throw. He made 1 of 2 that kind of opened the door, made it a 5-point game. Then they come down and hit the 3, and then Carmelo does what old Carmelo does. And so I left last night's game going, damn it, I just can't trust them. I mean, they'll get up for the great teams. Hey, we're going to beat Toronto and make a point. And then here comes Boston limping in there without Kyrie. You got to take care of this bit. This game should have never been close. Steven Adams, again, one night he's 10 of 13 from the field. I think last night he shot 7 times, once in the fourth quarter. This team has an identity crisis game to game.
You know, football and basketball have a similarity. Baseball too, most sports. There's talent, and then there's situational. Atlanta, the Falcons, I thought had more talent than New England. New England was better situationally. That's why New England keeps winning. It's not a talent thing. They're very good. That's the difference between Brady and Matt Ryan. Their numbers can be very similar. One's historically great situationally. One isn't as great. Russell Westbrook is great. He's dubious situationally. This team's lost 11 double-digit leads. That's not because they're not talented. It's because late in games, this is why Kevin Durant left. Situationally, Westbrook worries me. He's the world-class quarterback. He's A-Rod. I don't trust him in the playoffs, but I know he's more talented than Jeter. Jeter was better situationally. So when I watch Russell, I'm like, yeah, I don't doubt that he's great. But last night he took a 3 with the ball, leading by 3. He's the worst three-point shooter in the league. That's what Boston was hoping he would do.
How can you blame this on Westbrook when Westbrook is the one that's carrying the team?
Because it's situational. Games are close late in the playoffs.
But first of all, he was 50% from 3 last night when he took that shot.
But that's not what he is
And
historically.
who else do you want? Corey Brewer? Carmelo?
I don't want anybody taking that.
I don't want,
No, you're not. If you're a
I want him
coach,
to go
you're
to the
not-
hole and make the refs blow the whistle.
Yes.
If you're a coach, you're not telling him, hey, if you feel like you have the right shot, don't take it. He's like, shoot or shoot. You're going to shoot the ball. And he should. If he felt like he had a good shot, you might as well take it. And Jason, you're flip-flopping after one day.
I flip-flop all the time.
They were the hottest team the past 6 games, and after one game, you're going to flip. And
This is what they
can
do
have
to
an
me.
off game.
They draw me in and then they let me down.
Look, let me say something about Westbrook because you want to rip him. And I know in the last few minutes, he's up and down. You don't know what you're going to get. But he does have some great moments.
Yes.
In the last 5 years, in game, I think I have a graphic. Game time or go-ahead field goals made in the last 10 seconds, last 5 years, he is tied for first with Damian Lillard. He's second, if you look at the final minute, to Damian Lillard, and then second this season in field goal percentage in the final minute in those clutch situations. Second again to Damian Lillard. Look at that. So you can trust him. I mean, he's going to make some mistakes, but he's also going to make some great plays for you down the stretch. So I don't want to say, like, look, we know you can get to the finals with Russell Westbrook. You can be a great team with Russell Westbrook. It's happened.
Listen, I
But
don't
you need
doubt.
more than what they
Outside of
had.
Golden State, I could split up their players and say they have the second most talent in the league. Melo, Paul George, Adams, Westbrook, Corey Brewer. Well, I mean,
You
you're
could
gonna
Not Corey
argue,
Brewer. Corey
but
Brewer.
Houston's there, the Cleveland's, you know.
don't
with
love Houston's bench. After Kevin Love, your third best player is
I would
Rodney
agree
Hood.
they're underachieving. Their record isn't what it should be, but I think come playoff time, they will. I think they're the third most dangerous team in the West.
And they actually have a chance to be the 3 seed in the West. And is that a failure?
Here's where Colin's right to me, though. Think about the all-time great point guards or the point guards MVP conversation or just great. Of all the guys who I would want the ball in their hand in the last minute or two, he's not high on that list. His decision-making, and again, Isaiah Thomas is going to get other people involved.
Magic.
Well, yeah, but look who you're comparing him to.
What? Isaiah never won an MVP.
He's not Magic or Isaiah.
He's not Chris
not
Paul.
Steph.
I would rather have the
Chris
ball in
Paul
Chris Paul.
has had more bad moments in the clutch in the playoffs than Westbrook
I
had.
trust
But
him
we're
to
putting
feel-
everything on Westbrook. It's not just Westbrook's fault.
Nobody's saying it's just Westbrook's fault, but his usage,
to some
it's his
degree.
ball late. It's his team. It's Tom Brady's team late. It's Matt Ryan's team late. It's Cam Newton's team late.
But who are the alternatives?
They got some.
Paul George is an
They got
all-star.
Paul George,
Carmelo's
they got
a Hall of
Carmelo
Famer.
Anthony.
Do you count on Paul George and Carmelo right now?
Yeah.
Right now.
They're
Paul
shooters.
George
I mean,
is
they're
playing-
shooters.
Rather than that three-pointer he took, the guy needs to go to the hole and make him blow the whistle and go to the line and
By the
knock
way,
down your free
he's
throws.
a 78% career free throw shooter. By the way, he's great at drawing fouls.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is Boston, you know what sometimes Westbrook is? He's a great pilot at 33,000 feet. He's not great on the landings.
Yeah, he's not
And
Sully.
that's like what pilots have to be great at, the
Autopilot the
landing.
rest of the time.
He's a knockout artist. Okay, he's gonna go in there and swing wildly, and most times he's gonna knock you out. But sometimes he's gonna get caught because he's careless, and that's what he is. So you live with it. It's George Foreman. He's not Muhammad Ali.
No,
he's George Foreman.
He's Thomas Hearns, not Sugar
Okay,
Ray
that's a
Leonard.
good one.
Not
I
Sugar Ray
give
Leonard.
you
That's
that.
good.
Hey guys, Jason McIntyre here. Before the show moves along, I wanted to tell you that support for the Speak for Yourself podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They understand that home plays a big role in your life and family. That's why they created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th, with Rocket Mortgage you get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. It's convenient. Our trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. And in addition to getting a real mortgage approval in minutes, you can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time to make sure you're getting the right solution for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply. Understand fully. Mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/speak. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Welcome back, Chris Broussard, joined now by the founder of the big league, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the Cavs, who will come face-to-face with those dinosaurs tonight. They play host to the first-place Raptors, number 1 seed in the East. Very comfortable lead in the East, 5 games ahead of Boston, 11.5 ahead of Cleveland. Last time these teams met, LeBron and company got smoked by 34. Worst loss of the year, a fact that isn't lost on LeBron.
They're a better team, and I think they're a better team because they was able to re-sign Lowry and re-sign DeRozan. They kept that nucleus together. They're in a better place than we are right now because they've had more consistency and they've had their guys in the lineup for the majority of the year. So they know what they want to accomplish. They know who they are at this point in the season, and obviously you guys know about us. We're still trying to figure that out.
All right, Whitlock, you think he's worried about the Raptors?
Yeah, I think everything he said there was 1,000% authentic, and he gets that. Toronto has continuity, something the Cavaliers just do not have this year. They have Dwayne Casey, a coach who is really, I think, coming into his own as one of the elite coaches in the league. And DeRozan and Lowry and Ibaka and it's all working in Toronto. And I expect Toronto to win the game tonight. And I think Toronto's going to be a real challenge for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East. And so, yeah, I think LeBron is actually worried.
Here's the thing. Can we agree on 2 things? The NBA playoffs are generally veterans have an advantage and stars take control. DeRozan and Lowry in the playoffs, I think, have the 2nd and 3rd worst field goal percentages of any players in the league in the last 5 years. LeBron's really good in the playoffs. And Kevin Love in spots has been really effective. I'm going with Love LeBron over Lowry and DeRozan. I think there are teams, especially teams that have underachieved in the playoffs, that put more pride and effort in regular season achievement. And I think Toronto has peaked, and I think the Cavs have a long way to elevate.
Real quick, Chris, I just think they're like a team that's taken their lumps. They're used to, Jordan took his lumps in the playoffs before he finally got over the hump, but go ahead.
No, everything LeBron said was legitimate, okay? And he should give Toronto the adequate respect. They deserve respect when you go play with them. Don't take them lightly. But if he is worried, if that's the word, worried about Toronto, he will have to surrender his candidacy for the GOAT. If you're worried about Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and the Toronto Raptors, then you can't be the GOAT. I'm sorry. And LeBron has the athletes, the youth, the shooters. He's the best player in the world. He cannot be worried. Give him respect, but no, you can't be worried.
Hold on, Jason. I just think he's saying, I'm serious. If they were a U.S. team, I think we dismissed them because they're from Canada.
They were a U.S. team.
We dismissed them because they're from Canada.
The Broussard's problem, he's not watching enough of Toronto. You remember what happened to them last year?
No, they look good.
They got swept by the Cavs. They were making 8.8 threes a game last year, 21st in the league. So what'd they do? Off-season, they changed. This is going to shock you. They are now making more three-pointers a game than the Golden State Warriors. 11.7 a game. Warriors are at 11.6. It's close. That's how you can take down LeBron. Remember those Orlando Magic? Remember back in the day they took down a 66-win LeBron team? How'd they do it? Rashard Lewis, Hedo Turkoglu, bombing threes. That's the only way.
Was
As
Kevin
Cowherd
Love
said,
on that team with LeBron?
I don't think he was. But as Cowherd said,
Anderson
you can't go
Varejao.
toe-to-toe with LeBron in the playoffs. So you shoot threes, you got a chance. And Dwayne Casey, strong Coach of the Year candidate, right?
Okay.
I think they got a legitimate chance. I think LeBron's actually worried.
Is this the team LeBron was spinning the ball against in the
do
the
we
playoffs?
remember this? This was LeBron toying with them last year. Look at this.
You think he's worried? Does he look worried?
That was
That was
last
when Kyle
year.
Lowry was
Hold on.
hurt in that series, and they got swept.
Cleveland ended the season just as badly last year
Yep.
as they are this year. They lost 7 of
Exactly.
their last 11,
Yes.
500 ball for like the last 3 months.
Hey, was
this is what they do.
was LeBron shooting guard throwing soup at the coach? Was the coach like doesn't know where he is, injured and out on the sideline? Is he out?
They're
None of
gonna
that was
lose
happening
because
in
of the
Cleveland
coach.
last year. Was Kyrie Irving in Cleveland?
You know the biggest advantage?
Well, hold on.
A lot
He
of
just
changes.
asked the biggest question. Was Kyrie Irving in Cleveland last year?
Yeah.
And he's not this year. I'm telling
George Hill. I mean,
I'm
come
just telling you, if they weren't from Canada, it's easy to laugh because they're from Canada and they're supported by
players aren't
Drake.
from Canada.
I know, but the team is.
come
Y'all just
on.
don't take them seriously.
Although they do have an international team. They are
yeah,
an international
that's the issue.
Okay, here's what I like about Toronto. They're pretty deep, so their starters don't play huge minutes. They will be the most rested, healthiest team in the playoffs. That's something. But if you don't win game 1 in Toronto against Cleveland, the series is over. I mean, it's over.
And
Because then there is an emotional shift. Okay, here we go again. That series
And
can be decided emotionally in about 3 hours.
And so nothing that happens tonight will tell you anything about what's going to happen in the playoffs. You don't. This game is meaningless tonight to you.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, one of the
Because I
big
don't think
problems for
Cleveland's
Toronto-
figured themselves out yet.
Toronto's lost 8 or 9, I believe, game 1s in the playoffs. And that is, you're right, that's going to be a killer. If they go in with all the momentum and lose in game 1, it's like, oh, boy, here we go again.
Look, Toronto is a good team. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I mean, they're legit. They're one of the better offensive and defensive teams in the league. But they don't have a superstar, with all due respect to DeRozan. Are you going to tell me they're going to be the Detroit Pistons of 2004? Or who else
Sonics
has won
of
it?
76.
The Sonics of 79. Who else has won
By the
it
way,
without a superstar?
Who was the number 1 seed in the East last year? Boston.
Boston.
You do realize Cleveland beat them, I think, 3 of those games by 30 points.
You know who their superstar is? It's what McIntyre started the conversation. That 11.7 3-pointers they're hitting a game. That's their
And
superstar.
when in
the
doubt, go to
Cavs make
Vegas.
11
Las
a
Vegas
game,
has
too.
Cleveland and Toronto exactly 12-1 to win the title. So it's even, according to Vegas. And I know you like Vegas.
Cleveland's never going to be high in the odds because of their record.
Welcome back. Jason McIntyre is back, and we're joined now by Hall of Famer Rod Woodson. Let's move to Richard Sherman, who was introduced by his new team, the 49ers, yesterday, and had to deal with some questions about the criticism he took over his incentive-laden contract, which he negotiated for himself after deciding to go without the services of an agent. Despite the criticism, Sherman stood by his decision.
The thing I'm most frustrated about is that, all the people that were like so high on bashing this deal refuse to bash the agents that do awful deals every year. I mean, there are agents out there that are doing, $3 million fully guaranteed deals that look like $50 million deals. When the guy gets cut after 2 weeks or after a year, and the guy only makes $5 million of a $50 million contract, and nobody sits there and bashes the agent. So I think that this was just one of those things where the agents feel uncomfortable with the player taking the initiative to do his own deal. It obviously puts a fire under them. It makes them more accountable for their actions because more players will do this.
All right, Colin, is Sherman being unfairly criticized for acting as his own agent?
No. What if I, a sportscaster, I had to go to trial, and I didn't hire an attorney, I defended myself in trial? You guys would be like, Colin's not an attorney. Well, what's Colin doing? Okay, Richards Brighton went to Stanford. Ask Michael Jordan, hard to be great at 2 things. He was a great corner. There's a reason we have agents, and you go to school and you get licensed. It's hard. So I don't think his deal, I don't think it's a great deal, not a lot of guaranteed money, but I think it's natural. If you defended yourself in trial, you would be talked about as a guy who probably shouldn't have defended himself at a trial.
I think he's calling for one standard, though. Let's say you hired a lawyer that did a horrible job for you at trial, and everybody in the media ignored it. That, man, you had a bad lawyer. They never do that. And that's what he's saying about NFL agents and just agents in general. a lot of them do a horrible job. A lot of them have great reputations, but they're so in control of the media and the exchange of information that no one ever calls them out when they do horrible contracts, unethical things, when an agent is more interested in the front office executive or the television executive than his client. No one ever calls him out on that publicly. They just get to remain to be the great agent. And so I think what Richard Sherman here makes a lot of sense. If I were him, I don't think I would have represented myself, but I would like to see one standard of criticism. There's a lot of bad contracts that get done, and no one says boo because this is an alleged great agent that they need information from.
You know, I look at it and I go, I get why he did it, because you keep that 3% in your pocket. But I played 17 years in the league, and I do not know anything about contracts. It's a standard contract, but you can write other things inside of the contract to escalate certain things and to have more guarantees. He's guaranteed. He had his $3 million signing bonus, right? He has his $2 million roster bonus, so to speak, at the beginning of the league year. Then that's it. And if he doesn't play to a certain level, so he's betting all on himself. He's saying, I'm betting on my previous time in Seattle, I played every single game outside of getting hurt. So he's betting everything that he's going to come back and be the same Richard Sherman at the age of 30, because he turns 30 next week. And he's betting that he's going to hit all those markers. If he hits all those markers, great. If you don't hit all those markers, bad deal. So I think it's yet to be determined. He's trying to be a centrator, if you heard what he said.
Yeah.
People are uncomfortable me representing myself because this might set a new trend. Well, it's not going to set a new trend. Most NFL players are going to be represented by other agents who understand the business and have comfortable relationships with other GMs around the league.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm going to defend Richard Sherman here. He blocked me on Twitter famously. We've argued before.
Famously. Most of America is.
My thing with Sherman here, like Colin, your whole court analogy, I don't know, had you sat by a lawyer before and been in court and see how the game is played? Because Sherman's been in the league, 7, 8 years? He knows how contracts are negotiated. He's done marketing deals before. He knows that game. I do believe that Richard Sherman had one agenda here. I'm going to stay in the division. I want revenge on Seattle. What are my options? I could go to Arizona, San Fran. Oh, I'm going to go to San Fran. They're an up-and-coming team. I can play Russell Wilson twice a year. I think he knew his entire agenda here, and I can't believe we're slamming him.
I will say the one thing where, and you're right, and Sherman is right, is I've had in my career, just not because, just you have to in our business have an agent, right? Because we negotiate against, executives. I've had good agents and bad agents. They're not all great. Either corners and quarterbacks. So Richard's point, I think this is well taken. Let's say my deal's not great. It can't be as bad as some of the other deals. Not to mention, we've seen some agents rip off their clients.
No question.
More than a handful in the history of pro sports. Like legends have been ripped off. So Richard's not going to rip himself off.
This is what I like about, I'm going to analogize this to basketball, to LeBron James and trying to empower Rich Paul. And I can say this with Rod here, because you want to talk about a trendsetter. What Rod did for Eugene Parker way back, no one talks and writes about this, but Rod actually made Eugene Parker one of the most powerful agents in all of football. And this was back long before, and Eugene Parker, one of the greatest black agents in football history. Rod Woodson did that. That's why Eugene Parker was able to sign Deion Sanders and a bunch of other players. So there's other ways to be a trendsetter and empower other people that can look out for you on your behalf. Richard Sherman's chosen the path I wouldn't have.
All right, well, Sherman also had some strong opinions about other people's contract situations yesterday. The corner was asked about the recent claim by former 49er safety Eric Reid that teams don't want to sign him because of his outspoken political views. Not surprisingly, Sherman didn't mince words.
We are concerned because he played at a high level for just about every year that he's played in this league. He's made enough plays to be signed with the league. Signed with the team and to make his money. He deserves his money. If safeties make a certain amount, I would think he's top 5, top 10 safeties in this league. So he deserves to be paid accordingly. So there is concern there because you would think a player of his caliber and his quality would be picked up by now. But, I think they're, great teams are still looking and people are still looking for players. And I'm praying that he gets picked up, but if he doesn't, then I think there will be a conversation with the league office and the union on potential legal action.
Reid is not the only notable safety still on the free agent market. Kenny Vaccaro, Trey Boston, Tyvon Branch all still looking for work. All right, Whitlock, what do you make? Does Sherman have a point there?
No, and you know what Richard Sherman could have done at that press conference to me was look over at John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and say, hey, you guys know him best. How come we didn't re-sign him here in San Francisco? That would be my first question, because the people that know this 26, 27-year-old safety best, they don't want him anymore. And so, you know, instead of having a conversation with the league offices and threatening legal action, start with the 49ers. Perhaps sue them.
By the way, I don't buy his argument. Michael Bennett's fairly political. The world champions just picked him up.
Oh, yeah.
Did they dump Chris Long or Malcolm Jenkins? By the way, the Niners picked up Richard Sherman. Like Kaepernick and Ed Reed have a similar situation. They're not elite players. This guy was moved from safety to linebacker. Eric Reid. Yeah. He was moved to linebacker last year. By the way, it's not like the Niners couldn't use help in their secondary. He was voted by Pro Football Focus the 30th best safety in the league last year.
Not voted, evaluated as the 30th best safety. And so, again, his top 5, top 10. People are just running off at the mouth, and it's great that, you know, he protested or whatever, but does that help a football team win is what general managers are asking.
Well, I think at the end of the day, and we saw that board, that there's multiple good safeties still out there that are looking for jobs. Do I think he'll find a job? I think he will find a job. He is a good player. They moved him to linebacker after Navarro Bowman left and came to Oakland. So they had a need at that position. He's big enough to play that position, so he's one of those hybrid role players. He is a good player. I don't think him taking a knee has anything to do with him not being signed. I think he will get signed. I think sometimes throughout the process of the free agency, it's going to take a while. It takes a while where you want to see certain players. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, this thing goes through July. That's a long time. They're going to have the draft. They're going to have more needs. They got a June cuts. So a lot of guys are still going to move around. You don't need a home today to say you're not going to play in the National Football League.
See, I'm 100% with you, Rod, but I got to ask, why on earth then would Eric Reid, a week into free agency, send out these tweets? Why would he say, nobody wants me because I'm protesting? He just nuked himself a week into free agency.
The millennials think that everything that goes through their mind, they got to tweet or say. It's really doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's a massive mistake.
It is.
No, it's a huge mistake, Jason, because again, I think it speaks to his delusion. And again, this issue of whether he'll be in the league, he's going to have something to say about that. It's not just all on NFL ownership and the general managers, because it's going to come down at what price. Again, there will be a price that they will evaluate him at, and if that ain't good enough, I'm being treated unfairly, I want more money, and that's what this indicates to me is like he envisioned himself being, I'm going to be one of the first guys snapped up and someone's going to pay me a lot of money. Oh, that didn't happen for week 1? Now I'm going to bitch.
Well, weren't you somewhat surprised? In 2015, Tyrann Mathieu was a great player. He was like all-pro. One team went after him and gave him a 1-year deal. Safety has frankly been devalued as a position in this league, in my opinion. It has become an offensive-minded pass rush corner league. When Honey Badger had one team, the Cowboys don't have a safety of note. No. So, I mean, he's not playing the world's best position if he was talented.
Let me go back to Whitlock's social media thing. Just take, for instance, somebody gets hurt in off-season drills. It's June, you need a safety. Oh, Eric Reid's available. Oh, wait a minute. This guy sent out a tweet. Richard Sherman's talking about maybe a lawsuit. No. Let's move on. Who else we got? I mean, I can see that happening in war rooms everywhere. I just don't see the point.
You got to hope it doesn't happen, because you got to hope that they want the best players on the team because they want to win a Super Bowl. That's what you have to hope. I believe that you're absolutely right. The safety position has been devalued just for the fact they're 75% sub. So you're looking for 3 good corners. Or if you can get a safety that can cover the slot so you can stay in your base package. So he's not that type of guy.
No, they moved him to linebacker.
He's kind of an old school safety. He's a thumper.
Yeah.
He's an in-the-box guy. And those guys are they don't need him as much as they used to in the past. Like when I first came in the league, he would have been great in the National Football League. But today's football, where it's 75% sub and there are 3 receivers, they need more corners.
Welcome Welcome back. Rod Woodson, Hall of Famer, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the National Football League, where the competition committee is on the verge of changing the catch rule, which has been a frequent subject of debate the last several years. Today, Senior VP of Officiating Al Riveron tweeted out the proposed new criteria for what constitutes a catch, which includes control, 2 feet or another body part down, second, and a football move, a third step, reaching, extending for the line, the ability to perform such an act. Whitlock, it seems like a no-brainer. An improvement to you?
I don't think this thing needed to be improved. I think this is a prisoner of the moment. Al Riveron and the NFL are overreacting to the Colin Cowherds of the world. That just because once every 3 or 4 years there's a controversial catch, no catch.
3 or 4 years?
Yes. There's the guy in Pittsburgh, Jesse James, and there's Des Bryant. That was like 2 or 3 years ago.
He only changed the AFC NFC championship.
It happens rarely. Now they've just, what the rule is, if it looks like a catch to Cowherd, it's a catch. That's what the new rule is.
No, the rule is, by the way, I had dinner last night with Roger Goodell. Excuse me. I actually was at a dinner, and Roger was there. And
I just dropped a name there.
And listen, I'm telling you, he's concerned. Like, he's not on that committee. He's like, listen, man, I'm watching the Super Bowl as the commissioner. And when those Philadelphia guys caught it and that ball was moving, I'm thinking, well, that's a catch. We all know it's a catch. When the commissioner, when Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels are confused, and those are great announcers, and they're like, what do you think, Al? I have no idea. You have to create simplicity for your consumers. Every 3 or 4 years.
That's when something happens. Look.
He means 3 or 4 weeks. He's got to. I mean, Jason, this is a major problem. When you're watching a game and you don't know what a catch is and the announcers don't know, you have to do something. I mean, I like the idea of Commissioner Cowherd. Maybe you can bring me into the front office with you. But at the same time, listen, Des Bryant, that was a playoff game. 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter?
It changed the outcome of the NFC.
If the Patriots don't win that, they don't go to the Super Bowl.
Wasn't that confusing to me? It wasn't a catch under the rules.
The problem is they had these rules already in place, and then they changed them, and all the rules were in place, and they said, okay, now when you go to the ground, we reset everything. Like, what? Everybody kept saying, what are you talking about? We reset everything going to the ground. Even players are trying to figure out all we would tell players is that you have to control it when you hit the ground. Well, you took away all that, and you're going back to the old school way. I think it's the easiest, cleanest, simplest way to ref football, and it's going to be better for everybody. It's going to be better for the fans. It's going to be faster games. You don't have to spend 25 minutes on replays.
That's a great point.
Everything's going to be faster for the game.
We focus on the wrong stuff. What needed to be addressed is pass interference.
Oh,
and y'all have fallen for the pass interference.
Defensive pass, offensive
pass interference is too punitive, and it's called too often. And this illegal handing out first downs.
I know that you don't drink, but I occasionally do. When you go to bars, nobody's squawking about the PI rule. They're all complaining about the catch rule.
Because you tell them to.
That's because they're smart and they watch my show. It's ruining football.
Not that big of a deal. All right, elsewhere in football, a group led by former NFL players and GMs, including Troy Polamalu and Bill Polian, announced plans to launch a new football league in the spring of 2019. The group already has a broadcast partner in CBS and is the third new league with major backing to be announced in recent months, including a new XFL and a developmental league started by Tom Brady's agent, Don Yee. Cowherd, will these leagues actually hurt college football?
You know why this is happening? Because the stock market's been doing this for 8 years, and these private equity funds, they got an extra $250 million to throw at people. If we had a moderate economy without growth, the Dow Jones was at 12,000, not 26, you wouldn't have these new leagues. This is extra cash in New York for hedge funds, private equities. They got to throw it somewhere. The Athletic, there's a new blog, sports writers behind a paywall. Here's $30 million. When you've got an economy that's on fire, you throw money and blank checks at new stuff. You're going to tell me that Alabama, 100 years of history, Michigan, Ohio State, yeah, I'm gonna abandon that and go watch a bunch of guys that I didn't watch in college.
It ain't about watching. I like your stock market analogy. It's right. They're shorting college football. And by that I mean is there's so much animosity towards the NCAA and amateurism that they feel like these leagues over time can pick off some of the great Rod Woodsons, the Jeff Georges, the can't-miss prospects out of high school that don't want to spend 3 or 4 years on a college campus for no money. You can be discovered in these leagues at 18, 19, 20 years old and make $100,000, $150,000 a year, not have to worry about school, and then start an NFL career. That I think they think players are ready to say, you know what, it's fine. Cowherd, you guys want to watch Alabama and Ball State football? We'd rather go play and make a little money and develop in this league.
This is, I don't think it's going to hurt college football for the fact that I think, listen, I was 18 years old when I left Fort Wayne Snyder High School. I weighed 185 pounds, soaking wet. I couldn't get 200 pounds off my chest. And to imagine that I'm going to go play with grown men, a game that's very physical and violent at times, and think I'm going to be productive. Now, I do think it can help pro football if one of these leagues stick, because there's multiple young kids coming out every year of college. They're not ready. They're fundamentally not ready. They're not ready. They're understanding the football itself. They're not ready. They need to develop 1 or 2 years. They have the developmental program in pro football with the teams, but you need to get on the field. So I think if one of these stick, it can help pro football. But I don't think it's going to hinder college football at all, because I just don't think high school players are going to come in and do anything.
Look at even the logo. It looks and sounds like an insurance company.
The key word that Rod and Jason said
A-League?
was develop. Okay, when I was coming out of high school and Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh were beating down my door, okay, I wasn't a high school prospect. But if you've got the choice to be coached by Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh, and Urban Meyer, or the guys in this league, who are you taking, Rod? Urban Meyer will put you in the NFL. Nick Saban will get you developed and ready for the NFL. I don't know who's coaching in this league. I mean, honestly, that is one of the big deciding factors.
You know what? And the other thing is, listen, man, I know we want to pay everybody in the world, but like David Shaw says, college is a place you go to learn how to get paid, not always get paid. I know everybody wants to make the NCAA to be like Lucifer. It's this purgatory. Yeah. There's a lot of kids, gymnasts, tennis players. They're not as good as Rod Woodson. They're not Andrew Wiggins. They're not great, okay? There's a million gymnastics, tennis players. NCAA is not. It's actually giving them an education. They have no chance to be a pro, and they can get into an engineering department at Purdue, which they probably couldn't, and they certainly couldn't pay for.
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to New York, where reportedly Mark Jackson is a hot name to be the Knicks' next head coach. Jackson has been out of coaching since losing his job with the Warriors. Cowherd, think he's a good fit for New York?
I don't know. He feels New York. He played at St. John's. He's
played for the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, he never felt like the Warriors, kind of their progressive movement. He always felt like the ownership wasn't all in Golden State with him. He feels like a Knick. He feels like a New Yorker to me.
Well, I just feel like he's long overdue for his second opportunity.
No question.
That he had enough success at Golden State that you would be foolish not to bring him in.
He's a very good defensive coach.
Yeah, and look, I think he captured the mindset of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and got these guys to go all in and open up their mind to a level of greatness that perhaps they couldn't even conceive originally.
He's a good dude. He's the kind of guy that could walk into a chaotic situation, galvanize it. He's got an easygoing temperament.
Love it. Hope he gets that job. All right, to Jimmer Fredette, Trae Young.
Oh, come on.
Who was drawing favorable comparisons to Steph Curry earlier this year. But now, as Young prepares for the NBA draft, one NBA scout who clearly watches this show compared him to Jimmer Fredette.
No.
Cowherd, who's a better comparison, Steph or Jimmer?
Steph. First of all, Trae Young is a great passer. Jimmer never was. He's also played against better competition. He's played against Kansas. Jimmer played in like the Mountain West.
Okay, let me ask this question. Who do you think he's going to be closer to in his pro career, Steph Curry or Jimmer Fredette?
Come on.
That's
give me a guy. Come on.
Steph Curry or Jimmer Fredette? Steph Curry, 2-time MVP, is that right? Or yeah, or Jimmer Fredette, a guy who's out of the league.
Steph, but not Steph. Jimmer Fredette, I think, played for 45 minutes in the league.
All right, so what do you think? Trae gets 46 minutes? Or?
No. He's going to play. First of all, he is a really good shooter, and he's a really good passer. He can't guard me. But Come on, man. The NBA's got about 6 elite defenders.
I've seen a lot of guys that could shoot it, light it up.
You
in
think
college.
he's Jimmer?
Light-skinned Jimmer Fredette?
Oh, God, no.
Wouldn't be the
No.